Yeah, right. Wait till we get some people on the hook. As long as the two people aren't us, right? That'd be me. You know what eBay stock's been doing? I wonder how eBay's been doing. Because now that Amazon's like stopping trying to get people to buy stuff, it only makes sense that their stock should be soaring. It'd be funny if they could hear us talking about like, oh. They could hear us talking about, oh, they can. Hi, now we got 5 people, so there's a lot of people that can hear us talking about it. I guess so. They're just going to hear us talking about eBay. Today we're just going to talk about the stock price of eBay.
Our colors are messed up again like they were for a few minutes last. Let's see if I...
Oh, well, that's super cool. I'm wearing a blue shirt, and it knows that it's supposed to be gator color, so it just turned it orange.
There you go. I resized the window and it adjusted it. So, okay. So, hi, I'm Chris, and this is Andrew. If you watched last week, Andrew is just someone that I'm talking with to do live videos, so I'm not just talking to the camera. I should look at the camera when I'm talking at my microphone. There we go. And I got a few ideas and stuff we're going to talk about. There's no script or any list of things, but I figured I'd just start off by talking about some of my recent projects. So my daughter's 7, and she's been on some of my YouTube videos. My colors, my aperture is adjusting on my webcam or something here. Anyway, and I've trying to get her into coding a little bit. She's done a little bit in the past with Scratch, and so I created like a basic little game with a character the other day for her, and I just let her basically go in and change the variables, change the variable for this, and see how much more he bounces, and change this and see how fast he moves. And that was kind of just my goal. It's just to her to play with the variables in the code and see how it works. And she's been playing like Kirby on a Nintendo emulator on her tablet lately. So she wanted it to be a Kirby game. So I put a little animation of Kirby as the main character. But then she's like, well, can you make him do this? Can you make him do that? So I started adding all these features to the game. And finally, I'm like, you know what? If we're going to make this game, we should make it our own game and get rid of Kirby. And I'm like, how about you start coming up with ideas? So she started drawing for me. I'm going to flip over to this artwork. This is some of her. I know, Andrew, you'll see it in a second on the live stream. There's a bit of a delay on there. Her concept art, and she's got all these different ideas of different enemies, and she wants it to be like Kirby. When you beat an enemy, you get their power. I guess I haven't really played Kirby. I think I played it once like 25 years ago, and then I helped her, when she has to get to certain parts in the game. But I usually tell her, you need to learn to beat this yourself. What's the point of the game if I'm playing it for you? But she's coming up with all this artwork, and I actually started scanning some of it into the computer and using it in the game. And the game's still an early. Here we go, Andrew. I'm going to send you a link right here. so you can view it on your computer. That should pop up in our chat here. Did you get that? If not, what you can do if you want to get to it, if anyone wants to get to it, you can all play this right now. Again, there's not much to it. If you go to filmsbychris.com, actually here I'll bring you guys to it. Browser, and of course I have it in the wrong browser window for streaming. But if you go to, here we go, filmsbychris.com, and click on software, and then go to notes, not notes, scripts, and click on 2020, and go to games, and you'll see one called Puffy Flyer. And in there you can see the game. I've added volume control. It remembers your volume settings for the music, and it's a song I wrote that my daughter picked out. And again, everything's blue and it's not supposed to be blue. Let's see if we can adjust that. That's not right. Now you're watching the stream of the stream. That's not good.
Get the cascading window effect going on. Look down that tunnel.
That's still bringing up that window. Let me see if I can switch that. What's going on? How come there's two of these in there? This live stream isn't going too good right now.
That's all right.
Here we go. Puffy Flyer. It's still the color.
It could be worse. We could go back to talking about the stock price of eBay.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. This is the game. There's a full screen button. I just started adding touch screen. You can make the character go left and right, but you can't make him jump. And we actually just changed the artwork this morning from Kirby to this little guy that I drew in GIMP. Oh, and he's dead. Let me restart. So you can use your arrow keys left and right to make him move around. And if you hit up, he puffs up and he can fly. It was Ember's decision to make him be able to fly through the ground. And if you press down, you can make him fall through the ground. And the two bad guys are actual little artwork that I scanned in that my daughter drew. And you can get hurt. And you get 3 times and you die. That's about it so far. Ember designed the level in Tiled, which is a tiled-based editor for creating games. So that's the project that I'm working on. And again, filmsitechris.com/scripts/2020. Under there, you can go to games, Puffy Flyer, if you wanted to see this and watch it as I work on it. And it's also up on GitLab. If you go to my GitLab, gitlab.com/MetalX1000, it's called Puffy Flyer, and you can pull down the code from there. But that's one of the things I've been working on the last couple days. So I thought I'd share that. And let's go back to me and you here. Nope, that didn't. It's messy. Let's see. Live streams. Let's see.
I love that you can see the difference in colors. I wonder if that's OpenCV has the same issue where instead of RGB it does BGR for color channels, so it's like swapping your color channels.
Why can't I get it to switch to? Oh, there's a picture. I was hoping to be able to switch between windows during this live stream, but it isn't liking that. Let me go ahead and close that window. There we go. Now we're back. Oh, there were a lot of things I wanted to show you guys, but now I'm afraid to show them to you because I'm afraid I'm going to be just flipping through windows for a while. Anyway, Puffy Flyer was one project I was working on, and there go our colors again. There we go. And so something else I was working on today, or playing around with, something. So as we mentioned in previous videos, Andrew does a lot of, he owns a drone company. He does a lot of different drone work, surveying and stuff like that. And you do a lot of 3D scans. Last week we showed a very downgraded scan that you took of a tower that I just completely decimated and got rid of all the detail. But you take those scans of the towers, and all of the Blender channels I've been watching that I normally watch on YouTube all have been talking about this app for your phone called Displayland. Have you seen that?
I haven't. No.
It's not open source, so I installed it on my old backup phone that I use for experimenting, my uh, uh, Google Nexus 5X, which is a little bit of older a phone, and I think it was pushing the limits of the software. But you can then just walk around, and it catches all the textures, basically like you do with your drone.
Yeah.
Then you click submit or upload. It uploads it to their server, and then you can download an OBJ or other models from what they render out on their server. And I did a couple of tests run with it today, and they could definitely be better. But I wanted to share some of my better results with you. Let's see if I switch to this window here. Okay, that's that window. If I switch that, well, let me just take this. So one of the first things I did, of course, was do a scan on my face, which actually turned out halfway decent, considering I just closed my eyes, and it's not updating the video here. Great. Well, let's close that window and see what happens. Okay, good. It updated. So here's a scan of my face that I did, where I just closed my eyes and basically waved the phone around my face, and it actually turned out halfway decent for that. And I did it again later on, hoping to get the back of my head, and I felt like I did a lot more detail, and then I ended up just having a hole through my face. So the second time didn't work out too well. So this is I downloaded it, brought it into Blender, exported it as a DAE because that's what I normally work with 3JS, and then uploaded it to my web browser here. Then I did one. Let's see if this one loads. So this one was a bigger file. This one took me a long time to walk around, probably 20 minutes out in the hot sun, walking around my house. Obviously not great. It's like a 50 megabyte file. But again, that's just me walking around my phone. But what really impressed me with this, again, I could do better. Like if I go around the side of my house here by like my water tank and stuff, I didn't walk around the back, but some of these turned out fairly decent. I've seen a lot of people do really good work just walking around smaller objects like this and getting good stuff. But what amazed me was when I was in the backyard, it was so bright outside, I couldn't see through the screen on my phone, like the screen on the fence, or not the fence, the screening on my lanai. But apparently the phone was seeing through it because you can see in my lanai, you can see the windows through the screen. You can see a little bit of my arcade machine in there. I mean, it's all jumbled, but it actually saw what was inside on the other side of the screen, which I was amazed with. But again, this is just me walking around with the phone. This is me trying to. This is actually the very first scan I did, which was just a table I made out of some pallets and some chairs we have around front. So it didn't get the chairs too well, but the pallet table it did fairly well. And again, when you're scanning, it's showing you the point cloud that it's capturing, and it's telling you there's a minimum you have to capture and a maximum, and this was like the minimum. And when I was capturing the house, again, my phone kept telling me at one point, it kept on saying, slow down, slow down. And I think it was just the phone trying to catch up. Because when I finished and I was all done, I clicked, it was saying slow down, and I clicked the button to finish the capture, and it wouldn't click, and I tried clicking it like 10 times. So then I just went inside and sat down at my desk, and in like 5 minutes I heard click, 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 click on my phone. So finally the phone finally caught up. So I'm thinking that I missed a lot of capture data just because my phone was getting hot in my hand too, trying to capture all this. Might have been also because it's like 95 degrees outside when I was doing this. And then later on, I went into my son's room and got a capture of his room, which again isn't perfect, but fairly good for just a quick walking around. And I know you're seeing this on a delay, Andrew, but there's one wall here that's missing, which I'm surprised is missing. I guess there just wasn't enough detail on the wall because it was just like this solid blue wall, but there's a webcam on that wall, like a baby monitor camera. And I went up to it and thought I got some good dots on it, but that wall doesn't even show up. But overall, it did pretty good. Especially, I think it did fairly well over in the closet here. Drag this over. Like his clothing, I mean, I'm sure there's not a lot of detail if I was to go in, but his clothing looks good up there. So I think getting used to the software. I bet you could do a lot with it, but it's basically the same concept as what you're doing. You might want to check it out, Displayland. I don't normally recommend proprietary software. But if it works well and I don't have an open source alternative, which I know when you were doing your drone work, you were using an online service that you were uploading images you took from your drone, which is basically what this does, but for free. And I guess it's a social media thing where you can actually people share. You don't have to, but you can share all your models right there in the app with other people and see other ones other people did. But there was an open source project we saw on GitHub, if I remember correctly, which I probably need to look into more, which is like basically, like you said, like with yours, take a bunch of photos and upload it or load it into this server or whatever software, which I said is probably what a lot of these companies are using on the server end to render out this stuff. But it wasn't just a point and click thing. You had to figure out all the settings and stuff like that. So it's something I should play with more and see if I can script out some automation for it. But I will.
Yeah, I sent you in a text, if you check Pushbullet or whatever you're using for that. I sent you in a text one of the most recent scans we did of that 4,000 car fire up at RSW.
Oh yeah.
And how that turned out.
I have my
Just a little.
phone off right now because
Uh-oh.
I don't want anything popping up while we're recording this. Not that things have been going great with this live stream so far. I'm posting links to all this, and again, all of you can go to this. This is also if you go to filmsbychris.com/scripts, click on the folder that says 2020, and then 3D scans. Well, actually, this one's a little bit harder because I set it up with variables, so it's using the same script over and over again. But if you do $model equals me, it will show you me. $model equals house, it will show you my house model. And for the room, it's equals room. But I just sent them to you in the Jitsi chat here, so I don't know if you can get those. And I will switch back to this. No.
Let me see.
I don't know what happened to my webcam.
I don't know. It was cutting out for me for a little bit.
Oh, maybe I click stop and let's see. This big browser option is working. This one is not.
I sent you that link in Jitsi as well.
Oh, awesome. I'll check that out. So this is what now?
This is that there was that car fire up at RSW, Fort Myers International.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been contacted by a couple of people to provide some drone views of it, and we actually ended up mapping it with photogrammetry.
So those of you who don't know, this is Fort Myers?
Yeah.
Okay, so just north of where we live, there was a huge fire at an airport, which I think I heard was started because they were parking the cars on the grass, and the cars were hot and started a big fire. I guess it took out a lot of rental vehicles and stuff. And so you were hired to go out there and survey it with
document the damages, because if you think about it, 4,000 cars, if they have an average purchase price of 40 grand, it's $160 million. The little blue bar at the top is what's got to load before. You might have to hit. I agree. It's probably.
It's working for me. It's not capturing properly. I'm sorry.
Not capturing properly.
OBS, you're failing me.
Our viewership rate is through the roof.
How many people are watching? I had to close my YouTube window because it kept popping up on the stream.
There we go.
I should probably get that reopened so that I can see if people are chatting with us.
A couple.
YouTube. I'm sorry, everybody, that this stream isn't going perfect. Going live. So this is why I'm always worried about doing live streams, because I'm afraid things aren't going to go right. Last week went fairly well, but I wasn't flopping through all these different windows. It was mainly us talking, which we might need to go back to here. So
Yeah.
6 viewers. Woohoo! Thank you for joining us, everybody. I'm actually kind of glad there aren't too many people here right now. I don't know why this is not updating. I wonder how much of it is because I don't know. Now it's just a black screen.
That's right. Everyone will get to watch this afterwards and be like, "Oh my gosh, what the heck?" Hey, we're back to Orange Man.
Yeah. My eyes look weird.
I'm pretty sure it's that Coach Spaces.
Oh, we were almost. This whole live stream is just me messing, trying to get things working. Okay.
We're pretty much doing tonight what we do every time we get together, which is just screw around with something, find a problem that's completely unrelated, and spend hours trying to solve that problem instead of the one we initially set out to solve.
that's
That's
life,
pretty much how it goes.
life working with computers, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, hey, while you're at it, I think my printer driver is not working anymore.
Hold on. Now I got us back in color, but we're frozen. Okay. Here we're discolored. Well, I didn't mean to click on that. Oh,
It's like,
this is.
like being at the ophthalmologist office. Is it better 1 or 2? 2
Oh.
or 3?
Okay. You know what? Here on out, I think we're just gonna talk, and I'm not gonna mess with stuff on the screen. I think I showed the stuff. I wanted to show the project I was working on. I did that. Let's talk. Are you really having printer problems? I hate printers.
I'm not. I just feel like everybody in the world has printer issues. And my favorite thing about the printer industry is, like, in my opinion, Brother makes an excellent printer, and they're kind of looked down to as like the budget option.
Yeah.
And I don't know of another industry where the budget option does exceedingly well at the core competence.
Oh,
Pipes.
you broke up for a second there.
Well, I know like HP and Epson and them, they've all switched to the DRM ink. And every time they've gone and tried to solve issues, I feel like they create ones past just like making a printer easy.
DRM is just, you go to YouTube and search DRM in video games and watch the history, and it's like every time they put DRM in a game, it ends up just making it harder on the people who purchase it. Then eventually someone comes out with a crack, and it's easier to use it with the crack than actually use the purchased copy. It's ridiculous. Especially years ago, I read an article about the history of Street Fighter, and it's so funny because it's just like, okay, so they created Street Fighter. It was Street Fighter 2 was the big one. They sent out these cabinets, and people started making these counterfeit cabinets. And of course, they start spending all this money on lawyers trying to stop it, which they just couldn't. So they're just wasting money on lawyers. And then one of the developers, and I'm remembering a story I read a while ago, so the details I'm pretty sure are right from what I remember. So he goes down to the arcade and he sees one of these, I think they're called Street Fighter Rainbow arcade machines, which was basically they didn't just make a counterfeit arcade machine. They actually tried to mod it and make the game different and add new features. And he's watching all these people play it, and he's like, it looked horrible. It was glitchy and all this stuff. He goes, but he figured he'd try it, so he started putting in quarters. He found he had been playing for hours because it's like they sped it up so the game was faster and added some features, and it was very hacky put together because they didn't have the source code. They had to actually mod the information on the chip, which is like way beyond my technical skills. But then they ended up taking that, going back and taking some of those concepts from that game and putting it in making Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And that's where Street Fighter 2 Turbo came in, where it's like, here they are, they're fighting something that actually inspired their next game. And again, if they were, back then it was, the internet wasn't really around, or so it's like sharing source code was definitely a lot harder. But open sourcing something like that, those people who were spending all that time doing that could have actually done it well. Kind of like it was either Quake or Quake 2. I think it was the first Quake. id Software, was working on it. They made it for Windows originally. And then the source code, if I remember correctly, got leaked. And so the source code got leaked, so people were making copies of it, and someone ported it to Linux. And then they ended up using a lot of that code, supposedly, from the leaked copy that someone ported to Linux for the official port to Linux. It's like, I mean, right now, the original Doom and Quakes are all, they eventually made them all GPL, but it's like, they could have saved themselves so much trouble just by doing that originally. But going back to the printer thing, I hate printers because, I mean, it's such a great, great invention to have, because it's like everyone can have a printing press in their house, but they just always break, always jam up. It's like you go to try to print, I always just wish I could print, addresses on an envelope, but every time I do it so rarely, I go do it, it's like, oh, nope, that's not a line. I end up printing like 10 copies before I get it all right. Then I'll print a bunch of envelopes and forget how I did it, a year later at Christmas time when I'm trying to make these envelope letters. But it's like such a great concept. And nowadays, most things are digital, but you do want things printed. I remember back in the 90s, when digital cameras first started coming out, and as soon as those were available, I started, I was buying digital cameras, and then I bought an HP DeskJet printer that printed images, at least at the time, they were like photo quality, they were great. It was so expensive to print. And I eventually got to a point, it's like, man, I can print an 8x10 for like $1, where buying photo paper and then the cost of the ink, and that's hoping that it prints properly the first time, it's probably going to be more than $1 a print. And then I know nowadays you can get photo printers that, like, at least back in the day, they had ones that would laminate, and then they had ones that would actually develop. Sony had one that would actually develop a picture. You'd actually buy this printer, and it had like, instead of paper, it had film, and it would print out these developed photos, because inkjet printers, you get them wet and the ink runs off them, So nowadays it's like, I barely used to ever use my printer. Now I've got kids and they've got schoolwork, and especially homeschooling, we're printing stuff all the time. But at least printing stuff all the time, the ink doesn't dry out, because that's one of the problems with printers, right? You go to print something and you haven't done anything for 6 months and the ink's all dried up, but I'm talking a lot. And I realized in our last video, I think I did most of the talking. So I'm going to let you talk in a moment, but I have something to say, because you brought up the DRM on the inkjet on the HP printers, which I've mostly bought HP printers in my life, because back in the 90s they just did great photos, and they work great with Linux. I had an Epson one for a while, because it was the best CD printer, and I used to do a lot of CD printing on CDs and stuff like that. Now when I buy a new printer, I just find the absolute cheapest HP I can. Usually it's somewhere between $25 and $50, And
well, you know that you can't even buy HP ink anymore. You have to like subscribe to it as a service.
Well, with my printer, I buy the refilled cartridges off Amazon. They still work. I don't know. I've heard about the DRM thing, and I don't know, is that in the firmware of the printer, or is it that in the drivers of the computer? Like, do people on Linux have that issue? Like, because there are open source drivers for HP printers?
Yeah, so my Canon that I had bit the dust. I do a ton of printing for business. So, and the Canon that I used, it was like a Maxify MB2320, and it was a great inkjet, but it had issues with the ink at some point. There was like a driver board that went bad, and it was like I think it was like a $60 printer, so I just tossed it. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to go find a new printer, and that was a lot harder than I expected. I went to Best Buy, and there's like someone in the aisle for printers, and I asked them, I'm like, I'm looking for something without DRM. I want to be able to buy prepackaged, Amazon ink that's not stupid expensive. Lo and behold, this person's actually a HP rep, and they're like, oh, the HP line's really great. I don't know that it will work 100% without our inks. And I ended up walking away not getting a printer, because the person literally couldn't verify What
Oh, I lost you for a second.
didn't work
Okay,
with
rewind
with prepackaged?
say your last two sentences again. You broke up.
Ah, the HP lady in the store couldn't even tell me for sure that it wouldn't work with repurposed ink or like aftermarket ink.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you can't tell me one way or the other. You work for the company. So I looked it up. I ended up going with a laser jet from Brother. There was like $150, so it was 2 or 3 times as expensive as an inkjet. But I can buy aftermarket toner. The printer drivers are all real easy to set up, as are the scanning drivers, and you get like 1,200 pages out of the first little thing of LaserJet toner, and it prints monochrome pages, like it just spits them out one after the other. So I said all that to say it's super stupid, because you were talking about in Quake and Doom, the kind of folly of, oh, we're going to make everything locked down because it's a better customer experience. And is it, if I can't even get a basic answer to does this printer use ink?
Yeah.
Like,
20 years ago, I used to do real estate photography, and then the realtor company here in town that I was doing photos for asked me. They said, "Okay, do you want a job also when you drop off the photos, putting them on our server and entering them into a database?" Oh yeah, sure. Organizing the photos I take, that's great. So basically I would spend my mornings taking photos, and in the afternoons I'd go and organize them all. And they had this huge, printer for printing up flyers. A toner-based printer, so it just spit them out like crazy, super fancy. They told me that the printer slash scanner, this is a big office scanner, was $30,000, and it was an HP, and it had an special, supposedly HP computer that needed to run this. The computer was $20,000, so altogether we're looking at $50,000 worth of stuff, right? And there would still be a repairman there every other week trying to fix it. Are you holding very still, or are you frozen? I guess since your bars are grayed out, that means that I lost you. Oh, gotta love live streams. You're back!
Yeah.
Anyway, as I was saying...
I think...
Oh, go ahead.
I think your signal quality is low. I have a little like signal quality signal on your.
Mine's green.
Your screen. Really?
Yours went from green to yellow to red to gray.
Let's see if maybe I can switch my Wi-Fi.
Oh,
anyway, go ahead.
People are gonna steal your thumbprint. Oh.
Steal all my Wi-Fi.
They're gonna steal your thumbprint. Woo!
Yeah, that's an awesome piece of footage right there.
Anyway,
that piece of footage sums up tonight. I feel like just.
So, I don't know if you heard the last thing I said about that printer. $50,000 worth of printer scanner, and every other week they had to have a service guy in there to fix it because it would break.
Oh yeah, we have a.
Things aren't going great tonight. I'm hoping to also do a live stream with Andrew tomorrow night, and hopefully things go better. I should have topics that I should talk about when he's frozen like this. Oh, hey, you back?
Yeah.
Ah! Your signal strength is in the red though. Oh no, just went to green.
I don't understand what's going on with it.
I don't know what to tell you. I need to come up with stuff to talk about when you're not here. I should when that happens I should look at the chat room here. I see you chatted. You 3D models web-based game. How's OBS? And how OBS is failing us tonight. Yeah. So yeah. So printers suck. DRM sucks.
I mean, there's like I don't know where they're finding programmers that sit down and go, all right, let's make DRM things and let's make terrible printers, because in in the IT world, at least, maybe not in the space, but in the IT world, everybody knows that stuff sucks.
It's business, and then people work for a company. A company says you have to do this. It's like, well, people are like, well, that's my job, you know. And what I usually say to that is like, if it's your job and you got to do it, you got to do it. But make a stink about it. You have no clue how much I've complained over the years about the software you use at work. I don't complain as much as I used to because I've gotten tired of complaining. Um, but it's just like it's like right now with everyone being at home with their kids for school. When this all started, my sister texts me asking me how she gets Flash on her iPhone because she needs Flash for or iPad for her kid's school, and I'm like, and she didn't say at first what it was for, but I kind of guessed. I was just like, first of all, I don't know if you can run Flash on an iPad. According to her, there are two things that she's read. I guess there is a way to get Flash running on an iPad, not official Flash stuff. Um, but I said, hey, listen. I said, you need to complain. She goes, well, I just needed my kid to get into this class. I go, I get it. I get it. You're forced into the situation. Your kid has to go to class. You still need to complain. It's like, it's not a matter of opinion. You can Google Flash is not secure. It's not supported anymore. They don't even make it anymore, right? There's no more updates for it.
No.
So it's dead. It's end of life.
It's depreciated. Yeah.
Yeah, the school board should know, and they're not gonna do anything about it unless people complain. All you have to do is send an email and get all the other parents to send an email. They're not gonna fix it right away, but if everyone keeps emailing them, just hey, an email from all the different parents next year, hopefully they'll fix it. And you know what? They have enough people on their staff, on the IT staff there, and I say that kind of jokingly because IT is a joke. Although I have friends that work for the school board on IT, and I'm not necessarily talking about them if they end up watching this, which they probably aren't. Most IT, if you're good with computers, you're probably not in IT. And that's probably going to upset a lot of people. And I'm not saying that just because you're in IT, you're not good. I'm just saying, in general, people who work in IT are computer users. There's a difference between understanding how a computer works and understanding how to use a computer.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's like anybody can use a computer. Like where I work, the IT guy, when we have a problem, he Googles what web-based company we can use for this. And that's why we have accounts at 5 different websites. One for inventory on station supplies. We had another one for inventory on office supplies. We for writing up NORs. If something broke on the truck, we had one website we went to. If something broke in the station, we went to another. It's like we're filling out forms to submit stuff. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be working in computers. If you can't create a simple form for us to submit, you shouldn't be working in computers. I mean, that's computer 101 for computer knowledge and outside of usage. But that's what IT guys do. They pick up the phone and they call a company after Googling what company they should use, or they install software. They're not writing software, which I'm not saying you need to write every program, but most companies have some sort of where generic software just doesn't cut it, but they try to force this generic software, especially with the fire department. But it's just like filling out forms is a basic thing. And now I'm done with my rant. And why don't you talk about something, Andrew?
I would say on that, like that's one of the only things we do really differently at my company. I mean, aside from like the basic, like, oh, customer service and blah, 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 but there's other people out there that get the customer service part right. Mm-hmm. That just like, let's make a form that we can fill out and submit flight logs. And then let's make it relational so we can also send emails based off it so that we aren't opening 15 different tabs and programs to do one task, that there's APIs out there that can do it all.
I'm gonna go ahead. You finish. I cut people off sometimes.
I was going to say, I'm certainly not there yet in terms of being able to do that all myself, but even having the knowledge of how it works to get it done and then being able to have someone that I work with that does it, mm-hmm. Like, I don't know why more companies don't do that, because it's pretty cost effective, actually.
Well, here's the issue. Is most businesses, like you go for a job, software development, you're probably going to be interviewed, by hopefully somebody who knows a little bit about, but all these different companies, they hire someone to be their IT guy. The person interviewing them doesn't know anything about computers. So this person just says, oh, I have Microsoft certifications or whatever. It's like if I was interviewing somebody, I would have a test for them, and I would tell them days ahead of time, this is what's going to be on the test, and it's going to be like, okay, here's the scenario. We have a computer here. Operating system got completely trashed. We need you to get the files off of it, reset up the system, and then also set up a server to where you can remotely log in and you can update stuff and we can access like just basic stuff like that, like just a list of stuff. I mean, stuff that if you, especially if you know ahead of time, you should be able to come in and do in under 10 minutes, right? It doesn't take much to plug in a live distro of Linux, back up the files, start up a web server, put the files on there, and start file sharing, so people can access them. It's like, and if you can't do that in 10, 20, 30 minutes, then you shouldn't be working in this job. And so, yeah, it's that's the issue, is the people hiring these people don't know what they're doing. And I would love if work just said, "Hey, next time we hire an IT guy, you test them." Because anyway. But I was going to say earlier, talking about the form submission again. I don't expect everybody to know how to create forms to submit stuff. It's not that hard. Like literally, the basic stuff can be taught to somebody fairly easily. But I don't expect everyone to be able to do that. But you're hired as an IT guy, you should be able to do basic stuff like that. And at the very least, and I cringe saying this, Google Docs, you can create forms that submit stuff at least into a spreadsheet. And at least that's a starting point. I'm not necessarily recommending that, but that's better than paper forms like we use, like I was complaining last week that we use at work. At least it's dumping it into a spreadsheet that you can later export as a CSV file and import into a database once you do set up your own thing. Collecting the data is the first step. You need to start collecting the data. Later on, you can do stuff with the data, but just get the information. That's what's important. So,
yeah. We're up to 9 viewers.
I saw that, and you're one of them.
Well, so we're up to 8. I mean, that's literally doubling our viewership, though. So I feel proud about that.
Last week we were up to 20, and we started a little bit earlier. So maybe by the end of this we'll have 21 viewers. How about that?
There you go.
I'm sure we probably lost a lot of people at the beginning when we were fumbling around with stuff. I was fumbling around with stuff. I don't know.
It was a smooth beginning, right? No.
Yeah. What you mean when I had the load screen at the beginning and I didn't think our audio was going out over the live stream for like 2 minutes, and then I realized that it was.
Yeah. Yeah, what you all missed, by the way, was us talking about the stock price of eBay and a whole bunch of random crap, like how people can't hear us over the load screen, but they could hear us over. That happened. It was good.
Right now, since there's only 10 people in the chat room, or at least 10 people watching this video, and if you have any questions, now's the time to ask. And we can talk about something. Yeah, that's normal. You guys taking questions? Yes, we are taking questions. Aweb. Your name is Aweb? You're not the web, you're Aweb? Aweb? Aweb. It's probably an initial. It's not an indefinite article. And I should talk and not just sit here and wait for him to answer. And okay, so you're talking about with your Aaron. Hi, Aaron. You're talking about developing forms and stuff like that, and you have a guy. You said recently he set up some of your form submissions so that it emails you when something's submitted or something. Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, well, we have it's just a PHP and SQL page where we can we have our customers and then we have our jobs that we've flown, so that when we fly a job, we log the flight time, we log what the job was and what we did for it, and then we use links to do all of our send photos and stuff, and you can put the link in the database and then click a button and it sends it to the customer on file. So we don't even have to go into email to send deliverables anymore. When you have 15 of them in 2 days, which during peak season you can get as many as that, it makes a huge difference. Massive, because then you don't have, what was that email? Oh, then what do I put? hey, thank you for your business. Here are your deliverables. Where's my deliverable? Okay, go. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It saves so much time. It's insane.
I was going to ask, you know how to get stuff, not necessarily this is something that you need right now, but you know how to use that to send text to your phone, right?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, we've toyed around with that idea for scheduling. If we ever add a scheduling bit, where right now everything starts when we're on, like when we're done flying. That's when the pilot logs. But if we ever wanted to do it where when the customer asks us, we log a job that's going to happen. Well, the idea is to set it up so that it texts the pilot that's slated to fly it.
Hmm.
That's kind of something we've been working on.
Real quick, Aaron in the chat
Yeah,
says he says there's also a delay from when you talk and we see you, 15 to 20
yeah.
seconds. Do you mean our audio is off, or are you just acknowledging that the stream has a 15 20 seconds? Because someone else says it's in sync. Chris, any updates on the car project? Sorry for not on top questions. That's fine. I'm looking for questions. Car project. I'm assuming. Are you talking about my Mazda car? Because no, there's not really updates on that. But for people who don't know what we're talking about with that, because a car project we could also be talking about when I started this channel over 10 years ago and I installed a computer in my car, which is still out in my garage, and the heat just destroyed that touchscreen. I have a 2016 Mazda 3 with the older firmware on the entertainment center, running Linux. And first day I got it, I found that if you put a certain script on a flash drive, plug it in, restart the computer, it will run that bash script. And then later on that day, I found if I hold down a couple of buttons, I can bring up what's the word?
Terminal,
I'm sorry.
terminal,
Not well. There's before you
or
get to the
shell.
terminal. There's what's the word I'm looking for? A menu of sorts. I was trying to get in there to turn on the Wi-Fi because the car had Wi-Fi, but it was turned off by default. And when I got in there, I saw a button for terminal. Boop! I clicked it. I had a root shell plugged in my USB keyboard, and I was able to type. Issue with that right now is that when I plug in, and I just haven't messed with it much because I really don't want to screw up the entertainment center in my car. Um, but I did want to play around with more. I did a lot of dumping files from it to look at them and stuff. And there is an API out there that someone created up on GitHub to where you can create your own apps for the interface using like CSS and HTML, I guess is how it works. But typing on the keyboard, that terminal, some of the keys don't work, so it's hard for me. Like I think like the greater than symbol, so trying to pipe stuff into a file wasn't working, or dump redirect stuff into a file. The pipe symbol may not be working. You can enable SSH. There are scripts out there to enable SSH, in which case I can log in, get it on my Wi-Fi, and then, or at least connect to it. It can be a hotspot or connect to Wi-Fi. I just haven't played around with it much, because it's more of just interest than usability. There's nothing really that I want to do. The the greatest thing I did was I went in and I changed the configuration. I read online because it has a touch screen and some really good controls, but the touch screen doesn't work when you're moving. If it detects the car is accelerating, you can't use the touch screen, which was actually more of a hindrance than anything because there were times where I want to click on a song and I can't click on the song, and I'm trying to go through the menus with the knob and stuff. So there was an option to turn that off so the touch screen works while I'm driving, which I don't use much, but it's available. But I think when that happened, I think it turned off because the car has a compass and GPS built in, and that functionality is not working anymore. So I think that's what I disabled to get the touch screen. So now I want to see if I can get that. Not that I use it much because the GPS is just a state map because you have to buy the maps from Mazda to actually have. You can see basically the interstate and traffic on the interstate right now.
They don't have Android Auto
Uh,
in 2016. Well, I guess yeah.
I
I guess
think
that'd have been one of the first ones.
I think there might be some hacks get on there. I'm not really interested in that because I have my phone right there on a magnet underneath that screen. You know, it's
Yeah.
like I'm not going to use my car for maps. When I go on long road trips, I take my backup phone, I download my maps offline, and I use that so that I have both phones. That way, if I can wear out the battery on one. And the car has USB ports for charging, but I don't like wires while I'm driving, so I usually don't have things charging. But yeah, that's the most on the car project. I haven't done much. Sometimes for me, it's just getting the root shell. Now I know if I need a root shell, I have the root shell. I don't necessarily need to do something. It's just the fact that I know that I have a root shell, it has BusyBox, I can do almost anything. There was some videos I watched online. I guess the car by default also has Wayland in it, which Andrew, I don't know if you know what Wayland is. You know what
No.
Xorg is? X, the graphics display on most Linux
Yeah.
systems. People have been trying to replace that for years. People don't like X because it's old. I guess I have no problem with it. I say that, but then we've been having video issues all day today. But Wayland's supposed to be like the replacement for it. It's been around for years and it's barely used. But apparently it's on there, and there is a script you can run that basically kills the regular interface, starts up Wayland, and starts up a web browser on the car. That's pretty neat. I don't think I would use it, but it's neat to know that I can, you know?
Yeah,
We've lost viewers. We're down to 7 viewers, counting you.
that's okay. We do it for the ones that stay,
Yeah, that's
right?
right. Aaron,
Yeah.
Aaron is awesome,
Yep.
and Super Fin guy, you were awesome. If you're still here. Who else is here? Let me see. Um, Quad is here, or Quad was here. I'm just looking at people who have commented in the chat room.
How about that
MMD.
Naples Drone Solutions guy?
That guy is awesome. Naples Drone Solution rocks. If, if, if you don't know, Andrew is Naples Drone Solution. There you go. If any of you are down in Naples, Florida, and Nina Drone, he's the guy. So.
Because I feel like the really just the idea of locking people out of things, I guess. I've always thought this with my car. There's times when, like, I try to go and I can only, even in Android Auto, you can only use your voice to search when you're moving. Similarly, you can't use the keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's good. It's a Google interface, so if I could type in the first 3 letters, I'd have the area I'm going. So instead, I'm pressing the button, and then I'm saying the word, and I have to look at my screen to make sure Google heard me, and then it pulls up a list of items, and it heard me wrong, so that's the wrong one. So now I've got to press it again, and by the time I'm done with this, my eyes have been off the road for like half a minute. And this isn't the only case where these safety systems, like, they make cars infinitely more complicated as you're moving down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if we could just type the first 3 letters, we'd be where we need to be.
Yep.
Or I get into situations where I have to disconnect my phone so that I can just use it like a phone, because I can't use it like a phone because it's not safe in a car.
Yeah, I don't know if that would necessarily be considered DRM, but yeah,
No.
same kind of
Yeah.
topic, subject. But yeah, I would just consider, I actually was going to do a video talking about this, so I guess I'll talk about it now. Is malicious software. So, a lot of people talk about viruses, and they'll refer to almost all malicious software as viruses, but not all malicious software is a virus. For a piece of software to be a virus, it has to copy itself. It's got to spread. That's like the definition of a virus. Malicious software is, in my opinion, varies from person to person. See, to me, a malicious software is any software on your computer, and this is my definition, Chris' definition. I should Google what the actual definition is. But my definition of malicious software is software that prevents, that either does something that the intentionally does something that the owner of the device does not want to do, or prevents the owner of the device from doing something, right? And that can be different
Right.
from person to person. If I write a script or a program that every 20 minutes erases everything in my temporary folder, that'd be stupid to do. But if I did that and I wanted that, that's not malicious software. But if I didn't want that, now it's malicious software. And that's why I've talked about in videos before about antivirus software. Kind of a scam. Doesn't make any sense if you sit down and think about it, because it's like back in the day it was antivirus software. They looked at it and they looked at like the hash and other stuff in the code and be like, oh, we know this program, but then like you just recompile the program and you can't check it for it anymore. And then it gets a little more in depth than that. And nowadays, all antivirus does is it tries to guess what is bad software. And I actually did a video where this happened the other day. I created a Hello World program. Hello World in C. It was just a main function. Printf Hello World return 0. Compiled it, brought it to a Windows machine, and Windows, the built-in antivirus, deleted the program and said because it wasn't on their whitelist. It's like, we don't know what this is, we're deleting. It's like, imagine if that was like my only copy of that program and they just deleted it and there was nothing wrong with it. And just because it wasn't on their list of approved software, it's just like it just got deleted. So, and then I went in and disabled that, and I didn't need any password to disable that. So, which means it's just like there's no security there. Just going turn off this. No password or anything needed. But it's like it's just that's what antivirus is nowadays. It's guessing what they think might be malicious, and for whatever reason they think. And to me, that's even more malicious than most malicious programs.
I actually looked up the definition of malicious software, and your view on this, I think, actually fits this definition quite well. Techopedia, malicious software, commonly known as malware, is any software that brings harm to a computer system. And then it goes on to list the forms. Wikipedia lists it as any software designed to intentionally cause harm to a computer, client, server, or computer network. By contrast, software that inadvertently does it is called a bug. And so I think you'd be correct, because if my phone inadvertently prevented me from being able to enter text, that'd be a bug.
Right.
So the fact that it's designed to do that makes that malicious content.
Exactly. and yeah, the only thing I think my definition doesn't have that says it's doing something, but I think if it's also preventing you from doing something, which is kind of the same as doing something, since it's doing something to stop you.
Yeah.
But again, that's different from person to person. It's like what you think is malicious software may not be malicious software for me. Because you might want a program. There's a lot of people who install programs. I'm like, why would you install a program that does that on your device? It's like, I'm like,
Yeah.
And of course.
Yeah. No. And then Aaron asked about the Linux script to command a drone, which it wasn't to command a drone. It was I actually found this cleaning out my garage. This goes on to the skids of the drone and kind of locks in. You can see the skid would fit through there, and a little piece slides on. And an Android phone sits in there to measure cellular strength of towers.
Right. It was again, we did two different models of it. One for FM radio and one for cell. For the cell, we used an Android phone that had the cell information and GPS all built in. And then for the FM radio, we used a Raspberry Pi with a USB dongle for recording the signal strength and a GPS antenna on it. And,
GOIP.
Yeah, and on both we just wrote bash scripts to collect that information, basically dump it into a log file, which we then sorted through later on.
Yeah.
So yeah, going back to the whole malicious software thing, and in the definition, my definition of it, for preventing you from doing something, is basically any proprietary software, because it all prevents you from modifying the code. It's like, and again, does someone care about that? Even if you don't care about it, it's still preventing you from doing it, and I don't think that's right. And again, I'm not claiming to be perfect. Obviously, I have proprietary drivers on my computer, and even if I didn't, there's the whole, what was it called last year with the big security bug in the processors that were running Linux?
Oh, Spectre, and there was another one. There was two of them.
It's like there's really no way for a modern computer to be completely, open source free software, because even your processor has stuff built in, and even not. I mean, there's the BIOS or whatever we're calling it nowadays on the drive, which there are some systems where you can replace that. And Aaron's asking about the purpose. I'm assuming the purpose of the drone. So I can show you, but I'm not changing screens on this recording anymore because that wasn't going well earlier. We were grabbing all that information and we were making 3D models of the flight pattern around the antenna for these companies. Hopefully, was the goal, spots around their towers, and they would look at this 3D model, which had all these points around it, color coded by the signal strength. You can click on each point; it give you the GPS location and the signal strength of that point. So that was the goal. The end goal was to just collect that data for that 3D interface for just information that could be useful to companies.
Yeah, the idea was to sell it to some of the telecom companies and infrastructure companies and allow them to see if there was dead spots, what on the ground might be causing certain conditions that weren't conducive to how the radio's set up, because the radios are engineered very specifically to make sure to have a certain pattern um, in their like frequency band. So to be able to verify that, 10 years down the road after this antenna's been running and been sitting, that it still does that. Currently, they use very similar methods that were used in the 90s. They don't have a lot of updated technology. Any 3D kind of modeling of that is very nice and still.
Aaron, I just posted a link to the example code with some data that we collected, so you can see, you can scroll around that, and you can click on each of the points and see the information about it. You can zoom in and out. Yeah, so you can play around with that and see. Basically, that was the output of what we were collecting. And yeah. But hey, that's.
I want to know why that dead spot was there. That little one little red dot.
It could have just been the angle of the drone. I don't know. I don't know. It could have been lots of stuff.
It looks like it gets weak. Like it goes from 50 decibels, you go to that outer ring and you're at 80, negative 80, 75, 71. So I think it's a dead spot.
Yeah.
It very well could be programmed that way. But it's just fascinating that it actually worked too.
But that was I mean, that project was me and you getting to know each other fairly well. I mean, that was early on. I mean, that was kind of like when we first started hanging out. That was one of the first projects we worked on, right?
Yeah, after updating my website briefly, and then I ended up just redoing the whole thing. So that was a mess how I handled it originally.
I'm gonna show this. This was actually, where's my Doom 3D print that you made me? It should be on my desk. It probably got pushed. Oh, here it is. So Andrew was the first person I knew to have a 3D printer, and he printed me up this because I am a huge Doom fan. That's backwards. I just realized that my video is a mirror image. It says Dells that I got here, which is actually this morning when I was using that whatchamacallit, that Displayland program. I tried scanning this, but I think it was too small. It just wasn't recognizing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to create something in a 3D printer for a 3D printer. So I designed this in Blender, a little Punisher skull, but I wanted it to have a use. I didn't want it to just be a Punisher skull. So I decided to make it an SD card holder, so it would hold an SD card. So I think I got the dimensions off some website, but I'd never 3D printed anything before, and I wasn't taking into account the thickness of the filament, right? So Andrew printed this, and you could put an SD card in there, but it was almost impossible to get out. It was so tight. So I decided what I ended up doing. I know you probably can't see this. I actually stuck a micro SD card holder in there, or adapter in there, and so now I just use it for micro SD cards, and I can put that in and out. I don't really use it much. It just sits on my desk, but it's there. I should keep an emergency micro SD card in there.
Yeah, I'm still looking for a new place to start up 3D printing. I did it in my office, and then I started reading some of the health reports that came out about ultrafine particulate, and I decided it's probably not a good idea to do in an enclosed, air-conditioned space. But I'm working on that. I'm working on finding a place.
That's also I did the video, a year or two ago. Andrew has a CNC machine, which we played with. It's probably been 2 years. It's been a while since we played. I
hope not.
We still haven't, and all we did was draw stuff with a pen. I did a video on it, and then like a week later, you brought over the drill bit and I always wanted a CNC machine, and it's just been sitting there. We haven't used it. It's just sitting there. And there's so many things like that in my life where I buy stuff, or in this case, you bought it. But it's like I always wanted it. I want this, and now I have it. And another thing I always wanted was a laser engraver, which I ended up buying around the same time. And it only does like 2 inches by 2 inches. But every Christmas I make little Christmas tags and little Christmas coins and stuff for people.
You could put it on that CNC machine.
I know that's kind of that's my mind was going why the two are related, but both sitting out there. And yeah, that CNC machine, we really should mess with that more. But now we're getting into summer again. It's going to be so hot. We've passed the cool season. Anyway, maybe in 6 months, 9 months, someday when the plague is gone, you can come over to my
Yeah.
house and we can mess with that some more.
As long as we're 6 feet apart, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
So we'll just wear like, I don't know if you saw the guy with pool noodles. Have you seen that?
I have not, but my father-in-law is walking around with a pool noodle. They've come over once, twice just to visit outside, and they keep the distance, and he walks around with a pool noodle to keep us away.
Great.
I like. Well, first of all, what were you talking about? Was that kind of what you were talking about? Someone
That's
walking?
exactly what I'm talking about. There was a guy that took one of those like sun, umbrella hats
Uh huh.
and taped 4 pool noodles to it.
I saw somebody when this all first started, and they were saying to keep 6 feet away from somebody. Do you know who Glenn Danzig is?
I
I
do.
know you're young. You probably don't know who Glenn Danzig is. Okay, he's a musician. He was big in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Um, he's his big song is "Mother," which is the only really song that I've listened to him. But he's he's the real life Wolverine. Okay, he's like this punk heavy metal guy, long hair, and he's got the Wolverine look, big old sideburns, and he's a big Wolverine fan. In the '90s, that magazines used to do, if they were to make live action comic movies like they do now, what actors would you pick? And Glenn Danzig was always Wolverine. In fact, there's a rumor that when they went to make the first movie, just out of a courtesy, they sent him a thing saying, "Do you want to come audition for this part?" And he declined. Luckily, because it would be horrible if he was. But the guy is only like 5'3". He looks like this big tough guy, but he's super short. So when this all started, someone on Facebook posted, Glenn Danzig is 2 feet 8 inches or something like that. He's like stay at least 2 Glenn Danzigs away from people. And like Glenn Danzig, like I say, like he looks like this big tough guy, but he's rather small. And there's a video you can find on YouTube of him like backstage of a concert, like getting in some guy's face, and the guy just boom and knocks him out. And the other big one, he's like probably like 65, 70 now. I mean, he's getting up there in age. And there's a again, it's people have regular lives, but he's like this tough persona. He's supposed to be this tough guy. There's pictures of him walking out of like a grocery store carrying kitty litter and cat food. It's just Glenn Danzig in his regular day everyday life. But let's see. So now we've got a Doctor Universo. Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
Hi, Doctor. I
I
don't know if
think
you're a real
so.
doctor. If you are, cool. And we also have someone from Colombia. Is that an I? No, yeah. Ernerlink? Ernerlink is your name? His icon looks familiar. His avatar, so I think he's a regular viewer. I don't know. Anyway, just saying hi to people since we have um, 8 people. For a second, I laughed because I looked down at the message rate on my thing. It shows me how fast people are. I'm getting half a message every minute. I looked down. I thought it was the viewers 0.5.
Well, and I'm there as a steady one. Oh, someone tuned in. So now there's actually 8 people, not including me.
Oh, okay. Okay,
There you
and
go.
message rate just went to 0. So, what else? What time is it? Just gotta keep an eye on the time. Okay, I still got like 20 minutes. We can keep talking. Um,
Yeah.
again, I kind of want to do this again tomorrow night. I kind of just like talking to you, Andrew, and I don't mind people watching.
That's
Uh,
what friends are for.
I'm trying to think.
What did you cover tonight? Tonight we defined what a friend is, talked about the stock price of eBay, and went over how a printer suck.
Oh, we got 10 viewers now. Did you come back
Yeah. Yeah.
in?
So
um,
that's
yeah, I should make tomorrow. I should have a list of topics just in case we run out of topics. Um, any new projects from either of you? Well, at the very beginning of this, I talked about a few of my projects. I would show them to you again, but that messed up the video big time trying to do that. But I'm working on a video game that my daughter is coming up with the concept for, and she's drawing like artwork for and stuff like that. She's 7, and I just kind of wanted to get her into programming. But then she took it with the whole art side of it and just started drawing. Actually, I can show you the concept art. Let's see. I click on this and I'll show you. So these are her concept drawings, and I've actually Nintendo, and I was using Kirby graphics, but then we decided to make it our own game, so we went with this. And she's very excited. It's like 10 times. She's like, "Can we work
What is that?
I'm not
What
sure.
was the last one?
I'm not sure which, since there's a delay on what you're
The
looking
one
at.
with the red.
The one with the red?
Yeah, there's a red one. I'm trying to figure. That looks like a raindrop and then a chicken.
Yeah. So, so this is the underwater scene right here that I think you're looking at, right?
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
And so the next one you're about to see is going to be the spiky one, which is the first character I added in. That one's actually in the game. And then after that, you're going to see, I don't know, some. I'd have
This is
my daughter can explain it all to you. And in fact, I recorded a video of her the other day that I haven't uploaded yet of her talking about it. Um, so she'll probably explain, but she keeps coming up with new ideas. And again, it's kind of like a Kirby type idea where they're bad guys, but after you beat the bad guy, you get their powers, so you get all these different powers. We're not nearly that far. Um, but again, go to filmsbychris.com, click on where it says software, then click on scripts, click on 2020 games Puffy Flyer, and you can actually play what we've created so far. Anyway, let's go back to, look at this. This is us again, but with a different tux spinning. I actually did this one today because I couldn't find the original one that I did with the 3D tux. So yeah, there.
Flat Pack Talks.
The game that I'm talking about is a 2D game, but I've also been playing around with 3D stuff, and actually I played the other day playing around with putting 2D sprites in a 3D game that are animated using a module someone created for 3JS. So I'm thinking about making some very basic Doom clone, which I've done before with 3D models, but I'm thinking about maybe doing one with 2D models, 2D sprites, and that way I could probably use sprites from free Doom, which is Doom with all the art and sound and levels replaced with free media, but I could probably then I can intertwine it with I can put real Doom graphics in there, but then when I release it I can put so that way get around copyright law stuff, but yeah, I might play around with that a little bit. Very very basic.
So is her voice going to be similar to the Lego movie?
Like who in the Lego movie? I saw the Lego movie once. I recently watched Lego Batman with my kids. They loved that.
That is a great movie.
Yeah, it is a great movie. But the actual the Lego movie, like the first one, I saw the beginning of, and then I was in the house. I was staying with some friends and their kids had it on, and I was watching the beginning of it, but then I went off and started doing other stuff, so I didn't see that whole movie. They're neat movies. But as far as her voice, are you talking about my daughter's voice or the character in the game? I don't know.
I think he asked that right when you were saying how her artwork is in it. So I think he was asking if some of the sound effects, like you have the one game where all the sound effects are your voice.
And for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, if you
you can show him that game because that game's awesome.
Yeah, that's my best game. I worked alongside on that, and that game. So if you go to filmsbychris.com/games, I think. Yeah, filmsbychris.com/games. Click on Space Attack, and you can play that game for a while. That's up on GitLab as well. In fact, there's a link to it when you click on it. It works on mobile device, although for it to work on a mobile device, it's best if you click the full screen button. And I'm pretty sure Android or iPhone, iOS devices don't let you make stuff full screen in the browser. Last I checked, you couldn't. It doesn't allow it. So again, the definition of malicious software, it does not allow you to make it full screen. So I don't know how well it will work. It will load on an iPhone, iOS device, but making it full screen is just iOS is incapable of doing that by design.
This Wikipedia page on Malware.
Working on a little bit before my son was born. I played it in the hospital while I was waiting for him to be born, and it is a game that really has no ending. Uh, it's it's everything is procedural. It's generated so bad guys don't spawn in the same places at the same time. It's all based on random, pseudo-random stuff, and it's designed to increasingly get harder. So as you go along, more and more bad guys show up, and every 100 kills, a new boss comes. And then each level it adds a new bad guy, again, that comes in from a different direction with a different attack, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of power-ups. But then after you beat, I think it's the fourth boss, I think it's the yellow boss, I never ended the game. So after that, the game just starts getting harder and harder and harder until it's completely unplayable because there's so many things on the screen. And unplayable on a phone, it will start running really slow once you get like a couple of hundred enemies and lasers on the screen. On a computer, you can go for quite a long time. You just keep dying every time you spawn because the screen's just covered with bad guys. And I really should just put an ending into it. It should just be kind of like the ending to the first episode of Doom. Now, Andrew, you've never actually played the original Doom, have you? We've talked.
No, I haven't.
Okay,
No.
we're gonna do that sometime. But the first
Okay.
episode of Doom, because it was broken up into 3 episodes, so 9 levels each plus hidden levels, um, and at the end you fight these Baron of Hells, and then you step on this platform, you get teleported, and you die. And then it comes up with the text on the screen. You know, it's like you're the big hero. You won the battle. Where's your big victory? It isn't supposed to end this way. Blah blah blah. And that's in the game when you go to hell and you start fighting demons in hell. So that's the ending to the first episode, which was the shareware version of Doom. So shareware. So with Doom, it was real interesting. So they created Doom, and they're posting stuff on I'm assuming bulletin boards, because this is I think the original Doom was 93 was when it was released, which was the year you were born, or you 94?
That was the year before.
Okay. So
94.
they were posting updates and stuff like that. But when they came out with the shareware version, the first 9 levels, people were anticipating this game for a long time. Partially due because John Romero just is big talk. I was actually listening to an audio book about I listened to the first chapter of it. I forget what it was called, where the guy who plays Wesley on Star Trek: The Next Generation is actually the one reading the book, and he's just talking about John Romero, and I'm not sure how familiar you are with the creators of Doom. There's John Carmack, John Romero, Adrian Carmack, and another guy. There was only like 4 or 5 main guys. And then they got another guy to do audio, the music and stuff like that. But John Carmack was like the main programmer, and then John Romero was like the level designer, and he's like the creative guy, and he's also a loudmouth, just thinks he's awesome, and he talks everything up. So he was just talking about how great this game was before it was. I mean, and he was right. But they decided for the shareware version, they told stores, you can take the shareware version, make copies, package up, and sell it. You don't have to give us any money. And that's how the shareware version, and I guess if you go out there and you get shareware versions, there's different packaging for all of them because every store made their own. And that's how everyone get copies. And then on it, when you play the game, there's a menu where you can call up a number and say, hey, I want to buy this, give them a credit card number, and they mail you the actual game. I probably didn't get Doom till like 95 or so, which Doom 2 was probably out at the time. I actually bought Ultimate Doom. So I had the shareware version of Doom that my sister had, which was actually her boyfriend's, which I think was her husband is now. I played it. It had the shareware version. It actually had a bunch of level editors and stuff on that disc as well. And I wanted the full version. So that's why I wanted for Christmas. So I had my parents, or my birthday or something, they bought it for me that year. And I got the Ultimate Doom, which was original Doom. Later on, they came out with a 4th episode, so it's original Doom with 9 extra levels, which was pretty cool. Anyway, that was just a little bit of history there. Let's see. Can you play your Space Attack? Can you play your game Space Attack? It runs slow. It runs slow on your computer. I don't know. Like I said, when I test my games and stuff, I usually go to Walmart or Target and I find the cheapest little phone and I test it out on there. And again, this is an HTML game, which people would complain about HTML. And the only reason I can see why it would be running slow on a device, because it does not take much power, um, is, and I haven't heard anyone saying that it runs poorly in a while. You know, if this was 5, 6 years ago, I would say your browser may not support hardware acceleration, but I think they all do now, unless you have a specific GPU that has issues with it. Um, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why it wouldn't be running. Like I said, I have some things years ago when HTML5 was new, but I think there were issues now. Unless you're running, you know, it's not necessarily a slow device, but an older device that has a GPU that's not supported for, and it's not even using that. Uh, it's not even a 3D game. I don't know why it would run slow for you. It does not take that much power. I mean, someone's going to come in and comment and say that it's because it's an HTML game, but I can tell you it's not, because I can take this 2014 phone that was $175 back in 2014 and it runs fine on that. I'm not trying to criticize your hardware, whoever said that, but it's just, I'm guessing it's just your GPU or maybe your GPU drivers. I know that I have an NVIDIA card in my computer and I use the proprietary NVIDIA drivers. And you read things, some people say, oh, the open source drivers work better. Other people say the proprietary work better. I know that if I install the open source drivers for my system and I go to play original Doom, my frame rate is like between 5 and 9 frames a second. And it's just horrible. And
It's like a stop animation.
yeah,
Like one of those flip books.
yeah, you'll see people, do. That's another thing. It's like people sometimes talk about benchmark numbers. I hate benchmark numbers. Oh, we ran these tests and we got this and that. I don't care what your numbers say. I care whether it works or not, because there's so many different scenarios. And there was someone was asking me the other day about how something ran, and they were telling me about some tests they ran, and I just wanted to be like, I really don't care about your tests. My test is I took a cheap piece of hardware and tested it. It worked. Let's see. Uh, I'd like you to try streaming a Colobot session just for fun. I don't know what
Real
Colobot
strategy. Yes. Speaking my language.
is.
I love real time strategy games.
Oh, is that what it is? It's a real-time strategy game.
Yeah.
Um, if you don't know, it's a real-time strategy game.
Planet
So,
Planet. Where do you get that game? Can I just play it in my off time?
so you're not familiar with the game. You just like real-time strategy games.
I love real time and turn based. There's not enough of them out there. I oddly like console based ones, which I will probably catch flack for that. But I just love how like a gamepad feels with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like playing AI instead of real people because I always get crushed by real people. I like feeling like I'm smart, so I like to put the computer on easy and just go at it.
Again, before your time, and I wasn't involved in this stuff, is BBS systems. You know what a BBS system is, right, Andrew?
Not quite.
A bulletin board system before the internet. And so this is, I didn't do this back in the day. So late 80s, early 90s, if you wanted to get, it wasn't online, but you get online, you would get numbers and you dial up your modem, and you would run a server in your house, and people would dial in, and you have to watch Halt and Catch Fire. It's a TV show that came out a couple of years ago. I think they did 4 seasons, and in one of the seasons they're running a BBS system. It's a based in the 80s and 90s, the TV show, modern show on the past.
Yeah.
Anyway, and they still exist. You can go to them online. Basically, you telnet in, and there's bulletin boards. You can leave messages for people, and then there's text-based games. And I have very little experience with this, but maybe, yeah, I'm going back 10 years ago because I was in my last house, and I've been in this house for 10 years. My friend Daryl got me into it, and my wife got into it, and then my friend Key got into it, and we were playing this game. Oh, what was it called? It was a space game. It was a text-based game. And the thing is, you log in, you create an account on this server, and it's all text-based. You say, okay, I'm going to fly here, I'm going to fly there, and you have so many fuel pods each day. And so you can do so many jumps and go to planets and try to buy stuff. And then when your turns are up, you log out and wait 24 hours. You go back and do the same thing, and you can have teams and stuff like that. And you hope no one attacks you when you're not there and stuff like that. And we were having fun, the four of us playing against other people, and we were playing as a team. And we started doing really good, and then someone came in and just completely trashed us. And we think it was the owner of the server went in and adjusted the settings so he could win, because we were just doing too well. So this guy came out of nowhere and just started doing awesome. But there are a lot of text-based games like that, and most of them I'm not really interested in, but the space one was fun, because you'd find a planet and that would be good for buying stuff, and you'd buy stuff at one planet and then go to another planet and sell it at a higher price, and you would know what planet. You try to keep track of which planets are buying and selling things for certain things. So it's like, once you learn that, it gets kind of boring, because you just kind of log in, you fly back and forth between these two planets a couple of times, and then you're done for the day. But anyway, that was interesting. I don't know if you would like that. I mean, it takes like 5 minutes to do, but there's a bunch of other games too. But that was the only one we really got into. Let's see. It used to be a Linux, but I changed it. So this is a laptop. Someone said they're using a ThinkPad, but not.
All right, let me. I'm looking this up. This looks awesome.
What are you? Oh, you're looking up the thing you're talking about? The
yeah.
Bot?
All right, we're gonna end up doing a streaming session with that at some point. We're gonna have to do it, and maybe we can even do it where, is it multiplayer? Does it support like PvP? Because that'd be a fun video chat. Is just me and you trying to kill each other.
Let's see. Oh, licensed GPL v3. That's good. Okay. Runs on Linux. Okay. Let me see here real quick. Oh, and it's in the repositories for Debian, so I should be able to install it no problem. I'm not going to do it tonight. Is it a multiplayer? Cross-platform? Last update was just about a year ago. I'm not seeing anything on the Wikipedia page about multiplayer. No, we'll look into that. I'll do that if you play Doom with me one night.
Deal.
Okay, awesome.
And then we do have to get together and make the CNC thing happen.
Yes. Oh, speaking of Doom, okay, so Chex Quest. I've talked about this in videos before. So Doom, again, I mean, it was groundbreaking when it came out. It was like nobody had seen anything like it before. And so they licensed out the game engine for other use, and it's very easy to create a Doom game. And Chex, Chex the cereal.
Yeah.
They created a game called Chex Quest, which was a Doom game, but they replaced all the graphics and sounds. There's only 5 levels, and made it kid friendly. They actually did that, and then they did Chex Quest 2. And then I think like 10 or 15 years later, the guys who created it just for fun made Chex Quest 3, which I haven't checked out. I remember playing Chex, the original Chex Quest, in the 90s. But you can search for it online, and you can load it up in any Doom, port. So I put it on my kids' Amazon Fire tablets, because I want them to play Doom, but Doom's not really appropriate for my kids, so they play Chex Quest, right? And basically it's like you're a Chex guy, and instead of killing demons, you're teleporting these slime guys back to their own dimension is the plot of the game. And it's funny though, because I loaded up, I downloaded the WAD for that, which is the all the assets for the game, and you just load it up in Doom. And but I just loaded up originally when you got that, it came as a CD inside a Chex box, and it. I
think I might remember getting that CD as like a 6-year-old.
You might have. And that didn't have all the original Doom stuff on it. Well, see, I'm loading the WAD file up over Doom, so Doom, all the Doom levels are still on there, but all the graphics and stuff are replaced, right? And I wasn't even thinking about that. My daughter goes, "I'm on a new level. It's called the Shores of Hell." I'm like, And so, like seconds before she said that, I could hear the music, and I'm like, "Oh, this is an actual Doom level music." I'm like, I'm just like, I look over, I'm just like, and it's like the first level of the second episode of Doom 2, but with all the Chex Quest graphics, and I was just like, oh yeah, and she knows I play Doom because I play Doom almost every night. Like this right now, this time that we're chatting is usually my Doom playing time. I got about 15, 20 minutes in before we did a video chat, and my kids like to poke their heads in and watch, and I tell them that they really shouldn't. It's whatever. Um, it's original Doom, so I'm killing things, but it's you know back when it came out, it's like, oh, this is horrible. It's like kids can't be playing this. It's violent. And it is. There is inappropriate stuff in there, but not as bad as
It's all like 8-bit graphics, right?
yeah,
So it's like squares of blood flying off the page.
kinda. But
Yeah,
and it's so funny how time changes. It's like when new graphics come out, it's like at the time it's like, wow, this is so amazing, it's so lifelike, and then 20 years later, it's like that's not lifelike at all. It's like even when the um when they did the episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars, it's like so groundbreaking, and now you look at it, it's kind of like, it's not that
yeah.
great. And Doom, it's not like we thought it looked real, but it was amazing at the time. And like one of the graphics in it, and again, it's like this little podium with a beating heart on it. But it's like you can barely tell what it is. And I remember the first time I saw that in the game. I remember the level I was on. I walked up to it and go, "What is that?" Is that a beating heart? Oh, that's so cool. That's just like this little red boom, boom, boom thing. It's like, the artwork is probably like 32 by 64 pixels.
Yeah.
It's like,
What what is that? How does that compare to like the first shooting game that I ever played was GoldenEye on Nintendo 64. I was
okay,
like,
that was probably like
that
5
was
years later, right? That was probably
yeah.
like 97 or so, I would say. Which then by
Hmm.
that time, so original Doom was 93, I think it was released, and by 96 they were working on Quake. I didn't mean to scare you off, Andrew. There you go. I used to play that. We should play that. We should play that.
Yes.
Because I've got you can play it in emulator. And emulators, you can set up servers to play multiplayer. I haven't done that with an emulator yet, playing multiplayer. So we should. But I remember playing all the time.
We have a couple of projects coming, guys.
Okay,
We got a couple of
I remember
projects.
putting on the big head mode or the paintball mode in there
Yes.
because it was either that or Mario Kart N64. Mario Kart
Yep.
64 is what we played. Me and my friends and my roommates at the time in high school would play every day after school. And my kids, I just
Yep.
started playing Mario Kart 64 with them just the other day.
What a
Um,
good game.
but yeah, those are great games. So Quake, so like Doom is what they call, some people call, 2.5D. Okay, and I used to think people would call it that because the levels were 3D, but the sprites and everything are 2D, right? But really, the levels aren't 3D at all in Doom.
It's kind of like a Apple calling their glass 2.5D, right?
I don't know what that is.
They have 2.5D glass because they have round edges.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like a 3D screen like a Samsung, but it's
Well, technically, Doom, and I won't be able to explain this. There's videos out there that will explain it. So, like, I knew because I've edited Doom since the 90s. When you build a level, you can't have one level over another, right? It's like you can have stairs going up, and that was a big thing on Doom because you had Wolfenstein before it, and everything was flat. Where Doom, you could go up and down, but you couldn't have one level on top of other. There's actually little hacks people do in the games now where they use like basically bugs in the game so you can go up and over. And then there's ports that allow stuff like that too. Um, but really, it's a 2D game, and you kind of know this too when you're playing the game because you can be up on a platform and way, way, way down, like 20, 30 feet down, or even further, there could be a bad guy. If you try to walk off that edge, you can't because you hit them, even though they're 20, 30 feet down, because everything's really on one plane. It just fakes and makes it look like it's up and down. It's kind of weird. I can't explain it well. And then there was Duke Nukem 3D, which again wasn't really 3D, but that could have layers above and below it. And it all has to do with BSP versus something else, how it's rendered. Anyway, it wasn't until Quake where a game was real 3D, and Quake I think was the first game to have a release that actually it wasn't the original release, but then they had a release later on where a version of it where you needed a GPU that had graphics acceleration, which no game before required that because most people didn't have it, so no one made
Yeah.
the game requirement. So that was a big deal that they did that. And the guys who created, the id Software guys, John Carmack is just a software genius. He did the whole uh, uh, port of Mario Brothers 3. Did you hear about that story? Okay.
No.
So, I mean, we had Mario. What did the original Mario Brothers come out in '84? No, maybe a little later than that. I just watched something on this. I should know. Anyway, um, and then it was like around 1990 that Mario Brothers 3 came out, and it was Mario Brothers 3 had functionality that Mario Brothers couldn't be done with Mario Bros. 1, but that's because it was a cartridge-based game. Cartridge-based game, they could add RAM and add stuff into the cartridge, so even though it's the same Nintendo, you can add stuff and make it better in the cartridge. That was one of the benefits of cartridges. So, I mean, you could literally add more RAM and add an extra sound chip and stuff like that into the cartridge and add more functionality. So that's why you had advances from Mario Brothers 1 to Mario Brothers 3. But at the time, you couldn't do side-scrolling games. Mario Brothers 3, you could not make a game like that on a computer because the Nintendo was designed, or at least not most home computers, was designed for games where a home computer wasn't, and it couldn't. No one could figure out how to do it. Game companies tried to figure out how to do it. If you had a video game on a computer, it was either text-based or just like one screen. If you had to go to another level, you'd walk and the screen would fade out and another one would pop up. You couldn't have the side-scrolling action. No one could figure out how to do it. Big companies trying to figure out how to do it. John Carmack figured out how to do it one night on his own. And he left a floppy disk, for the other guys. He goes, "Hey, try this," and he had recreated the whole first level of Mario Brothers 3. And they sat down and played it. And basically, what he did was he just didn't refresh the whole screen. He just refreshed the parts of the screen that needed to be refreshed, just like you would with like MPEG compression. You're not regenerating the whole screen. You're only generating. So if the sky doesn't change in this block, you don't update it. And that's what he did. I mean, I guess no one else thought of it before him. So what the guys ended up doing was they recreated supposedly, and I think you can find leaks of this online. I haven't looked for it myself. They completely remade Mario Brothers 3, every level, for PC, sent it to Nintendo, and said, "Hey, this is all done, all ready to go. Just pay us a percentage, and you guys can use it." And Nintendo declined, even though all the work was done, because if people could play Mario on a computer, why would anyone buy a Nintendo? Was basically their response.
Oh.
So they ended up taking that and like redoing the graphics and creating a game called like Dave and Copyright Infringement or something like that. It's like basically like it's so close to Mario like they could get sued, so they just kind of released it with the graphics change and stuff like that. Anyway, genius programmer. But some of the things they did in Doom were so stupid. Little pet peeves, and I love Doom. Two things that are just so stupid that you. So when you're playing Doom, and there's different ports that fix some of these now. F6 is your quick save. Quick save. F7 is exit out of the game. Do you know how many times I've gone to hit F6, and I got to hit F6 and Y to confirm that I want to save, but I'll hit F7 and hit Y and exit out of the game and lose it. That's happened to me just a few times. Another thing that's happened to me more often is I hit F6 to quick save just as I die, and it lets you save the game as dead, and you go to restart that save and you're dead. Right? And there have been ports of Doom that have fixed that, and like Quake fixed that, where it won't let you save if you're dead. But it's like, why would you let me save the game if I'm dead? And some ports of Doom have a respawn cheat code where you can respawn, but I usually use PR Boom Plus, which doesn't have that functionality as far as I can tell. Let me look at the time. Oh, it's getting late. I have to get going. You want to do this again tomorrow night?
Yeah.
And maybe we'll break.
We'll be back.
10 viewers. We're at 6 right now.
Yeah, maybe we can crest that double digits tomorrow.
And yeah, and then we'll look into another night, maybe doing some gaming, retro gaming. We can do the Golden Eye.
Awesome.
Sure. Yeah. Cool. Talk to you later, everyone. Have a good
All
night.
right. See ya.